how much of your day are you making sure that you are okay? You can't support and give to others if you don't even know how to make yourself happy. So let's talk about it.
Are you tired of just getting through the day, especially when you know you were meant for more? I was too. So I started a journey to bring more joy to my life and create a life that I actually loved every single day. Join us as we'll take this journey together, celebrating our failures, being inspired by our successes, and laughing with each other along the way. We want everyone to be able to look at their lives and say, I created a life I love.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to I Created a Life I Love. My name is Janette Rodriguez, and we have.
Hi, everyone. I am Kristine Spindler Denton, and welcome to our podcast.
Yes, yes. We're excited to talk to you guys today about supporting your mental health. But before we get into that, why don't we go ahead and talk about what's up?
Let's see. What's up, Jeanette? What's going on with you?
So, what's up with me is basically I came back from a trip with my family. I went to the Mammoth area in California, and it was
Nice.
such needed time with my family. I also got the privilege of seeing California from a very different perspective of coming from Nevada. It is just different and crazy beautiful. The first like maybe 2 hours is just pure desert, so that part's not as interesting. But when you go in through the canyons and actually see the view of California, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. It's
I mean, I
gorgeous.
know the drive from the California part up to Mammoth, June Lake area. I mean, every turn is breathtaking. I felt like that when
Yes.
I've been in Colorado as well, and that part is just incredible. So I've never done it coming in, you know, from
Yeah.
Nevada.
And you wouldn't realize like how much land is in between Nevada and California. It's just like ranches beyond ranch houses. Like, I mean, not that many and very far from each other. So it's just so much land. It's just insane. It's crazy.
It is really interesting to think about our country and think about how many people are jammed into certain areas and then how much land there are in other areas and other
Yes.
places in other states. Like when I think of California in particular, it's just there's so many people, which drives me nuts on a daily basis. But that there's, so much land out there and so much room still for us to grow.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
very cool.
crazy. So what's up with you, Christine?
Well, a couple of things. I think I talked about it last week that I was really struggling with a situation that I had hired some people and to work with us and to help us and support us in a couple different business ventures, and it had gone sour, and it wasn't, they just weren't getting done in a timely fashion what they had stated they were doing. And
Hmm.
so I had talked about, I think last week, and mentioned that I was really proud of myself for kind of staying calm through it all and not losing my temper, which is what I do, and not kind of going into shutdown mode, which is my
Uh-huh.
other MO. Like I will just start, not really speaking, and I'll start to just not communicate real clearly, and because I'm just frustrated and I'm sad, right, that the
Yeah.
situation isn't working and it's not meeting my expectation, which can always get you into trouble. And
Hmm.
so I was really proud of myself not doing that, staying calm, staying, professional, and making sure that my interactions with the people to close things out and to end things when I decided to end things was not in any way unkind, and in any way bringing harm or, attacking to somebody else. But what was so amazing in doing that, and was proud of myself for being able to do that and grow as in my 50s, still growing, and do that and to do it well, I felt that what happened was a whole nother window opened. And we talk about that. Like, there's always that
Mhm.
saying out there, right? When one door closes, another one opens, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But what we've been talking about specifically on this podcast is how when you stay open, when things don't go, quote, your way or the way that you think they should, or the expectations you put on something, instead of just staying open to the situation being what it is, we put all of these rules and expectations on them. And to stop doing that. And so I really did that this time. Like, I was just like, okay, however this is going to be, it's going to be. I'm going to maintain, a great level of professionalism here and keep things positive. And then whatever happens as to the outcome of this, I'm going to be open to it and find a way to work with it, find a way to use it, knowing that this is happening for me, right? That this little
Yeah.
difficulty, this problem is happening for me. And it did. Like a whole another company which you and I had talked to previously and had been working with reached out of the blue. I didn't reach out to them, but completely,
Mhm.
if we're going to say out of the blue, I don't think it was out of the blue, but that they reached out and said, "Hey, just wanted to check in. Know you're working with somebody else on this now, but let us know if there's any way we can still support you or blah blah blah." And I was like, "Well, guess what?" And in fact, you could. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Fantastic. What do we do? How can we jump in? How do we support you?" Like, it was just such a positive, quick, easy communication, which is what was not happening with the other. Like, lickety split, solved, and just a wonderful situation. So I was like, here we go. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. Like, you are
Yeah.
going to go through problems. You're going to go through challenges. You're going to have people treat you poorly and not do things they promise that they're going to do. But instead of taking it all personal and getting all offended and angry and frustrating and letting your emotions run the day, if you're able to see a bigger picture that somehow you're supposed to gain some insight from this and grow from this and open up another door, those people couldn't have come in and kind of saved the day the way that they're doing right now if we
Yeah.
hadn't have had the problem, right?
Huh.
Like, they couldn't have. So it's just really, it was really exciting to see all the things that we're talking about on the show in action in my life.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was great.
Yes.
The second factor was I did find out from my doctor that I do have to go back into another surgery in July.
We
So, again, that was another moment where I had to be like, okay, am I going to get all down and negative
Mhm.
and judge this moment as a bad thing? Or
Yeah.
how am I going to just let this moment and let this situation be what it is and just be open to all that is going to come out of this moment? The good, the bad, all of it, but just be open to it instead of like, oh God, this is the worst news. Oh, it's going to ruin my summer now and my time off in July. Like, instead of going there, I just was really able to, I still had my moment, right, where I was
Yeah.
sad because of a trip I was kind of planning during July, but I was really able to be like, okay, now you felt those emotions. Now let's move forward and see how this is going to work for you as well. Like, how is
Mhm.
this situation going to benefit you in your life? And so we'll wait and see. I can't wait and see now I'm excited to see. Like, you start getting excited over how things unfold. Do you know what I mean? Instead of automatically deciding it's going to be a bad or there's negative with it, you, at least for me, and I'd love to hear from our listeners what's happening to them as they're practicing this. But you start to get excited as, wow, I wonder how that's going to turn out. I wonder
Yeah.
what I'm going to learn from that. I wonder who I'm going to meet during that time. Like,
Mhm.
it just puts you in the state of curiosity. It makes everything more exciting.
Yes. It does. It really
It's like
does.
you're really on an adventure, because
Uh-huh.
I'm not predetermining anything. I haven't made up my mind about how any situation is gonna happen, and so
Yeah.
however this procedure goes in July, I'm like, "All right," like, I'm reading a book, like, "I can't wait to see how this turns out. What's gonna happen in this chapter?" Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Uh-huh. And you have really taken control of, like, you know, your thought process and being open, and that is just amazing, especially through difficult times. And I'm glad to see that you're getting through all these difficult situations, and making it into something different that doesn't drag you down and that doesn't,
Yeah.
bring you down. And if it does, like you said, feel the moment in that time and then move on. So I love it.
Well, and I started this whole podcast and this whole journey was about doing just that. So if I'm
Yeah.
not living it and if I'm not doing it, we've lost our way, people.
Yes. Yes.
So no, so we're right here with you, growing, and I'm really excited, I gotta say, about this month's topic, because I think it does go almost to the core, I've realized, of what all of the months that we're talking about something new. So if you are new and just joining in, we do a different topic and a different theme, I guess you could say, each month. And then we take each week within that month to kind of delve into a different part of it and go a little deeper. And this whole month is on taking care of you and self care.
Oh yeah.
And I think that this is huge. This, because our big thing throughout all of the months so far has been, you have to be focused on your journey. You have to
Yeah.
be putting yourself first, your goals, your wants, your needs, your joy. Otherwise, you can't bring it to anybody else. You can't model it for others, and you definitely can't give to others what they need and show up in their lives maybe in a positive way for them if you're not feeling great about things, right? Like if I'm really mad and pissed off about something that just happened with a company, right? Talking to my friend, I'm not going to be there 100% to be able to support her or him and give them what they need if I don't have my own stuff in order, if I'm not making sure
Exactly.
my head's in the right mindset.
Yep. Taking care of yourself first to help others is definitely, the whole entire, what is it, when you're in the airplane, you put your mask on first and then you can assist
Yes.
others. Yeah. It really comes to heart with this one.
Yes.
All right. So, our quote of the day, focusing on taking care of you and your mental health, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Aristotle.
I love that. I think that's so
Yes.
true. I think
Yes.
everything about the world is inside ourselves. Like everything that's going on externally is fully reflective of everything that's going on internally, whether you want to admit it or
Mhm.
not. Sometimes it's hard to look in that mirror. So I think that is absolute brilliance. This is by Tony Collette. The better you know yourself, the better your relationship with the rest of the world. And I think that's totally true. If you
Yeah.
don't know what brings you all of these things we're talking about, when and how you can be grateful and have a grateful mindset, when and how you bring yourself joy and laughter. If you can't crack yourself up, I will tell you this. I'm very concerned about your sense of humor, because I crack myself up on a regular basis by something ridiculous and silly that I've done. So I'm hoping there's more of more of us out there that are cracking ourselves up.
Yep, we got to. Definitely. Now, why is it so important? Why is knowing yourself so important and taking care of yourself so important? According to mental health, mental health in general, just basically, if you recognize your mental health, you eliminate that anxiety, that depression, you can improve your concentration and really control your frustration and anger. It's definitely being aware of how you respond in the moment and how to relax and boost your mood.
Absolutely. The
Hmm.
article that I found was from mentalhealthfirstaid.org. It's a great website if you guys want to need some support and other resources. But this is from their article. I don't have the date of when this is out, but I think it's their most recent article that they just posted. Practicing self care can better equip you to deal with the crisis and support your mental health. Engaging in a self care routine has been clinically proven, people, clinically proven to reduce or eliminate anxiety and depression, reduce stress, increase happiness, and more. It can help you adapt to changes, build strong relationships, and recover from setbacks. In a national survey, Americans cited benefits of self care as enhanced confidence, increased productivity, happiness, and happiness. From a physical health perspective, self care also reduces heart disease, stroke, and cancer. So they have also some self-care goals up there that are, I think, are great as well. I won't go into all of those, but check that website out. And so that's why we always give you your why, right? We're educators, and we always I felt it was so important for our students to always know why we're doing something, right? That's the first question out of every kid's mouth. Why do I have to learn this? And it's a good question, and it's a question that should be answered, not just because. And so we always want to give you your why. So I think this is really showing how prioritizing your mental health and making sure that you are taking care of you affects all aspects of your life. Your mental health it becomes increasingly, stronger, more resilient. Um,
Mhm.
and is able to handle, those tough situations and those stressful situations when you are giving yourself self-care.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's important because, throughout life we learn like how to respond to certain situations, and really focusing and prioritizing your mental health will get you through those difficult situations, and it will really help guide you in how to, with your reactions or your thoughts and your emotions. It will really guide you through those difficult situations. But why is it hard? So why do you think putting yourself first is hard, Christine?
I think it's because we don't respect it. I think that we have learned a lot about mental health since the pandemic. You and I know we were trained quickly, but like over months and months as to how to work with kids and support kids during the pandemic time with mental health issues, and what were signs, and how can we support in our limited capacity. But it was really on teachers as the only outside kind of link to a lot of these kids, through Zoom, to that are in difficult home situations, to check on them and to make sure that they were okay. So teachers started taking on, well, as we always do, but we definitely took on new roles doing that. So I think
Oh, yeah.
everyone started to really understand through the pandemic, the toll that mental health takes on your physical body and on every aspect of your life. But
Mhm.
I think once we got out of that, we have short memories, right? Then we forget. And so I think everybody now knows the term, mental health, and it knows how much stress affects your physical body and diseases and everything you're going through in your life. When you are stressed out, it affects all parts of you. But at the same time, we know that, but we're not really doing anything about it. I think we still do not respect people taking time
Yeah.
to put themselves first. And I think that's something this show has talked about consistently from the very beginning, that it's not selfish. If you do not take the time to get to know you, to know what
Mhm.
brings you joy, to know what upsets you, to know what makes you happy, to know what makes you laugh, where your interests are, all of it. If you don't really take the time and stop focusing out there, which is always a
Mhm.
reflection of what's going on with inside you. If you don't stop focusing externally and really start focusing internally on making yourself the happiest person on this planet, then you cannot take care of anyone else long term well.
Yeah.
It just will fall apart it will fall apart at some point. And I know this as a single parent. I know this as a patient. I know this, in my family. And I think that's why it really, really is hard, because people still don't view the journey of self exploration as important enough and worthy enough. And And it has also been misconstrued as going to find yourself out there, and that's not it either. You have to be looking internally. You have to sit with yourself and really start to know yourself for
Mhm.
you to then find your happiness and your joy, and then for you to actively get what you need to support your mental health.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I honestly believe too that there's still a stigma about not wanting to discuss, our own personal mental health with others,
Yeah,
as far as being judged of having difficulties. You don't want to be put in that view.
yeah,
And so I think that has a huge impact. Even though we're aware of the terms, now we need to go put it into action,
that's
practice
it.
what you preach as far as like, oh, working on mental health and it, but actually doing it. Um, and giving others the space and time, like you said, to do it. Yeah. And to communicate, hey, like I need some time for myself and being
Yeah,
okay with that.
exactly. And I think for my generation growing up, Gen Xers, like we didn't talk about feelings ever. Like my parents
Hmm.
and I have never had a conversation about feelings ever to this day. Like that.
Hmm.
And I had those conversations with my kids all the time as to how you
Yeah.
feel about something and what you think about. And I think that we did a better job as Gen Xers. And, maybe we went too far. We can have all the debates under the sun. But as far as bringing up feelings and talking about them and being open about them, and I think raised a generation that is definitely more in touch with themselves, but at the same time, I don't think us as a society has we're still pushing back against them and saying,
Yes.
"No, you
Yeah.
shouldn't have your feelings. No, you're not allowed this." And I think y we have to really start prioritizing
Hmm.
that if we are not okay mental health wise, if we do not feel secure in who we are and able to have that grit to handle difficult situations, because again, this isn't about that you get to have feelings on everything and you're not going to go through hard situations and you shouldn't have hard situations happen to you. That's not what any
No.
of this is about.
Yeah.
And I have seen videos on TikTok or Instagram, whatever, where someone's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to deal with that." Well, that's not life. Like, trust me, things will happen to your life. Divorce happens, financial situations happen, loss happens, disease happens, and you don't get to say, "No, I'm not going to handle that." What we're trying to say here is that you have to be in touch with who you are and build up that resiliency and grit and that
Yeah.
ability to handle stressful situations and be able to know when you need to remove yourself from a situation. All of those are what's surrounding mental health. And know when you need to talk to someone, right? When it goes beyond you and you need to have the support of a friend or a counselor or a therapist, you know what I mean? Wherever you're at. But it's getting to know yourself so you're then able to know your needs and
Yeah.
then acting upon that and making sure you give that to yourself. And we as a society, I don't think respect that enough.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree 100% with you. Now, in the moment of understanding why, it is difficult, we also have some breakthrough moments, right? So, for me, when I really figured out, wow, something's wrong with I I know using that word something's wrong with me is
Yeah,
very
no.
simplistic, but it's really a moment where you're like, "Oh my god, I am not happy." It just clicks. It clicks and it really just ignites when you really identify that you need to work on your mental health. And that moment was when I was at my previous position. I
Yeah.
was just coming home, falling asleep on the couch, not even interacting with my husband, and literally spending most of my day in the car. You always need to ensure that your mental health is okay, even if you're, really involved with your work or whatnot, because if you're not, your work's not going to get done.
Yeah. And I think the cancer for me changed everything.
Hmm.
It really did because I knew that something wasn't right in when I received um my diagnosis, right? As
Hmm.
far as my life. Like for me, it was a connection. Now, everybody doesn't have that. For me, it was a connection as to how much I was stressing about work and finances and my time and working in a situation where I didn't feel that I was able to give my best or be my best or my unique skills were not being in any way appreciated. And all of those things were draining. And I was not in any way balancing and building it back up. I wasn't.
Hmm.
I was just feeling like you were saying, coming home from the day and just falling asleep on the couch, right? You had nothing left because you
Yeah.
felt completely drained. And that's what was happening to me as well. And mine showed up, I really feel, in a cancer diagnosis. And that was a breakthrough for me, right? Getting that diagnosis was like, okay, well, I can't keep going the way I'm going, or I'm
Yeah.
just going to stay in the circle. I've got to figure out where I am being drained, why that's draining and a negative. Where are the areas that are hurting me and attacking my mental health? Like you said, was it the drive? Was it that I
Hmm.
wasn't respected? Was it the way
Hmm.
people were speaking to me? Was it the work itself? Was it the people around me? Like,
Or
what
was it
part
all
of
of
it?
it? If it, what if it was all of it? you know?
Well, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
But you got it. Like, that's it. Like, but you got to do that examination. I think people just
Uh-huh.
jump and don't do the examination. I think you really got to figure out what that is because you can't move to something new if it's all of it, if until you figure out, okay, the new thing has to be different from that, and it can't be different from that if you don't know what it has to be different from. Like, right? If you haven't taken time to sit
Yeah.
down and figure it out. So I had to break it down and really figure it out. Um, and yes, mine was multiple too. I don't think it was all of it, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
multiple. And but then I had to say, okay, well, I can handle these things, even kind of draining me and not being the best right now because I need this
Uh-huh.
right now, or I need
Uh-huh.
the money right now, or whatever it is, right? But now I have to balance it by giving myself something that's going to pull me back up, giving
Yeah.
myself that time to work on my mental health, to buffer myself from situations, to make myself more resilient. Like, what tools can I be giving myself? What,
Hmm.
centering, as you said, can I be giving myself at the end of the day so that I don't go to bed day after day
Yeah.
after day feeling horrible? It's me. Now, if you can move away from the thing that drains you and, is bringing you stress, that's the best, right? If
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can walk away from that, which I know you had to do with the job and had to completely remove yourself from that situation, which I think was such a brave move for your mental
Yeah.
health.
Yeah. Yeah. And but if you can't do that, here's some more actionable steps that we can, help guide you through the process, because not everybody has that opportunity to just leave, like Christine has said or mentioned before. Like, obviously you do need to identify what is draining you. But here are some more steps. What are the additional steps, Christine?
Well, I think, yeah, the first is identifying it. So when you're talking about your mental health, you've got to really stop and break it down. What drains
Hmm.
you? What stresses you? Like, what emotions are attached to what? And we do this with our kids in the classroom too. Like, when I was teaching social and emotional learning, it was really
Hmm.
about identifying exactly what emotion is. And people are often surprised when you really stop and think about it, but really feel the emotion. So the next time you feel stressed, the next time you feel drained, the next time you're feeling like you're not okay in some way, stop and be in that moment. That's the first thing. And it's the same thing we've
Hmm.
done, right? With gratitude, with joy. When you're feeling those emotions, you've got to stop yourself in the moment and really look around and try and feel it
Hmm.
and be in it. And then
Hmm.
try and be aware of why, right? Or I'm feeling really like this is not a good situation for me. Like, you just get that feeling, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
kind of get
Yeah.
that. I don't feel good about this. Like there it happened, right? We all know it, right? And as
Yeah.
soon as you get that, identify it, like know and embrace it and don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. And then try and connect which emotion comes with it. Because sometimes it can be fear. Sometimes it can be frustration. Sometimes it can be that stress of I'm not good enough or I'm about to fail at this or you know what I mean? Those feelings of self-doubt and a
Yeah.
lack of confidence and a blaming, that's a different one, right? The self-confidence and lack of confidence is different than the blaming of yourself, right? Your
Mhm,
mind can start
mhm.
going and you can start blaming. So I think you really have to break it down and take the time to get to know yourself and know exactly what it feels like for you and identify those emotions. I think after you do that and you can kind of start breaking that down, first, then the next step is to see how you can minimize that. How can you challenge those thoughts? Right.
Mhm.
And sometimes challenging those thoughts, we've talked about our brains, right? Our brains are separate from who we are. So that voice in
Mhm.
your head is not who you are, right? That's part of our brain that has a lot of different things going on with it. You can listen to some of our earlier podcasts about the science behind why your brain, will think what it is. And a lot of it still comes back to, right, like caveman days or, previous time of trying to keep yourself safe. And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with, what's going on in today's world. So I think you need to really try and, after you've identified, try and sit down and think about ways, and this you can do in the evening at the end of the day and counteract. Okay, what are some ways I can go against that and I can argue against it and I can look at it differently, or I could
Mhm.
challenge those thoughts. If I'm blaming myself, let's challenge that. Was that
Yes.
situation my fault? No. Did I do the best I could in the moment? Yeah. Could I do better? Sure. But right now, did the best I could. So start challenging some of those thoughts if they're
Mhm.
about blaming you and saying you're not good enough. Sometimes you can do this on your own. Sometimes you really do need a professional. So we highly
Yeah.
suggest that as well, that they can kind of sometimes see from a very good objective view, and that's
Yes.
always helpful.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
would say that's next is then you try and counter do it. And then the third thing I would say, if you can change and work yourself through those stressful moments so they don't become stressful, or even I know a lot of people who use that. Um, I'm watching the World Series in softball right now,
Mhm.
and some of these student athletes were talking about all the butterflies they get in in these moments and stress and walking up and being, you're down to two outs and two strikes and your team's losing and you're the one who has to walk up to bat, right? And then
Mhm.
and do well, and you're either going to win it for your team or in their minds, which isn't true, but lose it for their team, right? And
Mhm.
all that
Mhm.
pressure on them. And they were talking about how they had a sports psychologist come in and really talk to them that how the butterflies of excitement and the feelings of stress were very, very similar, and to really identify that and how they turned it and used it, and
Mm.
how the psychologist was really helping them to
Uh-huh.
use stress and not let it use them and not let it drain them and be too much for them, or the moment
Yeah.
to be too much.
Yeah.
So I think there's really good work there on that type of stuff, and a lot of times it does take working with a professional, but you can really take those difficult, stressful, challenging situations and turn
Uh-huh.
them around.
Yeah. And you, please, please be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It will be frustrating, but give yourself some grace and, some patience. Have patience for yourself because you're not going to learn this all in one setting. It's going to
No.
be after multiple, multiple tries, years and years of trying, to reduce your stress, to reduce your anxiety, and to really focus on that mental health. So be kind to yourself.
Well, yeah, and I completely agree because then new things come up, right? I'll tell you
Yeah.
that too. Once I started on my cancer journey and thought, okay, the stress of this or the stress of this or the negativity of that, I can fix this and I can change how I look at this. And I'm going to use these skills to get around this. Do you know what I mean? And to kind of boost my resourcefulness. and to twist how I look at it, right? Which, again, that whole something is happening for you, not to you, was a
Yeah.
huge shift for me. That was really, really big. And so, even when something stressful happens to me, when I remind myself, wait, this isn't random, this is happening for me, I can get through this. I am strong enough. This is happening to
Uh-huh.
me for me to give me something in the end, or to teach me something, or to open a different door, as I was talking about before. So, that mentality, I think, is huge for me in looking at it. But I'll tell you, every time I kind of got past one thing or really grew in one area, something else,
Yep.
something else would show up. And then I'd be stressed out about something else. And I'm like, I was never stressed out about that before. Like, why is that
Yeah.
coming in this way? Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is that? So it's never something that's over. It's never something you're going to be perfect at, right? It's
Nope.
going through life. It's just going through life,
Yeah.
because a new situation is going to show up all the time that,
Yeah.
you might react to in a stressful manner. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
Yeah. Working on yourself is your number one job. Let's just say that.
That's it.
It
That's it,
really
and
is. Yeah.
yes, that's what this is all about, is putting yourself first. So we're just kindly suggesting that
Yes.
your job, yes, on this planet, since you were born, was to get to know yourself and bring your best self and your best skills and your uniqueness to this planet. And you
Mhm.
can't do that until you get to know yourself, until you're able to really see where you are weaker, where you are struggling, where you are challenged, where you are need to build some skills, like whatever phrases you want to use. But we all
Mhm.
have strengths and weaknesses, and we all have areas that hit us harder maybe than other people around us, and hit
Yeah.
us differently. And that's fine. That's normal. And you should take the time to really get to know what they are, and then delve into why they are, and then delve into, okay, what can I do about it?
Yeah.
How do I then build, pull myself out of this and fix my stress level? If I'm going to continue to have to go through, like, let's say it's I'm going to continue to have to go through this, then how
Mhm.
do I strengthen myself and give myself the tools that I need, so I can go through it less stressed, so I can
Mhm.
get through it without it draining me completely. So that's A. Now, if it's things you don't have to go through and you can work around to do differently, then do that. Like, that's great too. But you're going to get both in your life. You're going to get some you just have to go through.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of people who can help you.
Oh yeah. So now, why don't we talk about what are the things you can celebrate? Not just like years ago, but something that happened during the week. So why don't we talk about that? What is something you celebrated?
I'm celebrating growth for me. I think it definitely was a week of growth. As I've
Mhm.
said, like, going through the situation that we went through business wise was growth for me. How I handled the news regarding another surgery. I mean, this was growth for me, and it was really empowering. I've got to say, like, when you guys start doing this and working on yourself and putting yourself first and saying, I'm going to change my perspective, I'm really going to embrace the world I live in, I'm going to embrace how it's happening for me, and I'm going to stay open to all
Mhm.
that's happening, no judgment on anything. It's really empowering in the fact that I don't feel like anything that could happen that I couldn't handle now. Like, I have
Mhm.
been through a lot. Like, we've talked about this. I've been through sexual assault, I've been through financial drama, drama and challenges. I've been through a pretty really hard divorce. I've been a single parent, and now dealing with my cancer journey. Like, there's been a lot that's happened in my life, but and I've never with any of it felt defeated for whatever
Mhm.
reason. That part of my personality, I've always kind of felt like, okay, let's go, keep going. But I didn't feel that joy. Like that really
Mm.
that joy. I felt like I was getting through things. I was a survivor, and that was like such a cool thing. I was really strong. But I'm like, okay, that's all great, people, but I'd like to be happy. I'd like
Yeah.
to be joyful. I'd like to be laughing. I don't want to just be seen as a survivor and strong. Those are great qualities, and I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
But I wanna be thriving. I wanna be, having the time of my life because that's what
Yeah.
I'm here for. And
Uh-huh.
so I really feel that this mind shift for me is starting to show. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been on this journey now since January, um,
Mhm.
last January. So it's been over a year, right? Kind of,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
yeah, about a year, let's say. And I really feel that I'm getting it. I'm not saying I'm perfect, people. What? Next week's gonna happen and I'm gonna come in like, "What the hell?" No, but I'm hoping that, like, I'm really starting to get this. I'm really waking up joyful and
Mhm.
excited about what's gonna come today
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
just coming from a place of openness and not judgment.
Yeah. Exactly. And
What
for
what are you
me,
celebrating? I'm excited to
I
hear.
am celebrating my new passion of learning about Nevada. And it's learning the history, learning and learning about the nature. And it's just not that part. There's the Great Basin that I haven't really explored yet, and that is like a version of kind very similar to Mammoth Mountain. So I'm really kind of like, excited to go explore that as well. That definitely brings us to the end of our podcast. Thank you guys for listening today. Don't forget that we still have our Monday meditation minutes that we often post, including, nature scenes and moments for you to decompress, especially with all that stress, and for you to focus on yourself. Something that is extremely relatable for today. And we also have our membership on our website. I created a lifeilove.com. And on there, if you become a member, you have access to our ebook and digital pages. Uh, Anything else to add with that, Christine?
No, I think we have everything up for the next month. So it's great. You do get a full ebook, which is about 15 to 20 pages, which talks about all the things we've talked about on the podcast, but then so much more, goes way more into detail. And the digital pages, there's a different digital page like for each week. And it really helps you kind of write out like some of the things we were talking about today, really taking the time to write out and analyze like what is bringing me stress and why, like what is draining me and why is that draining me, how can I flip it or can I not flip it, you know what I mean, do I need help, in looking at this from a different perspective. Taking that time to sit down is really really helpful. That's what we recommend more than anything because you can't do this, you can't grow, you can't bring yourself all the good things in life if you don't know all about yourself and really what's holding you back, and stressing
Mhm.
you out. So use those pages, and those are all part of the membership.
Yes, yes. And to continue our Taking Care of Yourself month, for next week, we're going to be talking about taking time for self renewal, wellness
Mm.
weekends.
I
Ooh,
love that. I'm excited for that. Have you ever
yes.
done like a wellness weekend?
Self care,
Nice.
like, spa days at home, if you
Yeah,
want to
there you
say. Yeah,
go.
yeah,
That
yeah.
counts. That counts. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so excited to talk about that next week.
Oh, awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. And we are excited to have you guys listen to us next week.
All right, everybody, go out there and create a life you love. Bye.
Bye.